Okay, so this video is called What is a Language? And as the name suggests, it's an analysis of the concept of a language, So first thing I should say is that I'm completely self-taught in linguistics. And so these assertions are simply my opinions, and they shouldn't be taken as facts. So, what is a language? In my view, a language is a collection of logical relationships through the correct construction and deconstruction of which one can express and interpret communications, meanings, sentiments. So, i.e., it's a system, and it's an order of putting things together, words which represent individual ideas, and it's an order by which you put these words together and you can express communications which combine these meanings. So, for example, I could take the word which represents oneself, I, and I can take the word which represents the idea of wanting something, of wanting, the action of wanting, of desire, so the word want, and I can take the word which represents the idea of a physical object that has previously been identified within the conversation and to which one is subsequently referring. So in this instance, I'm going to make the physical object the bottle of water, and the word which refers to the previously identified physical object is the word it. So I take the word which represents myself, I take the word which represents the idea of wanting something, of wanting, desire, want, and I take the word which represents the previously identified object, it, and I can create a communication which encompasses all of these ideas, and I can do this by assembling them in a certain specified order. So, I take, in English, I always take the word for me, the person doing the verb, or the entity initiating the verb, I take the action, the word for the action, and I place it after the word for I, for me, so I place I first, and then I place want second, I want, and then I place it following the want. I want it. I want it. It's a very basic communication, and it's involving three components. I want it. Sorry. So, the significant thing when learning and using a foreign language is to understand the relationships and to also understand the different types of words. And if one can understand these two things, then one can take words as one learns them, and one can just simply feed them into the relationships. So, what I mean by the relationships is the order. It's logic. It follows the same order every time. So, it's not... You don't say I, it, want. If I was trying to express a communication about wanting the bottle of water, and I said, I, it, want, you'd say, what's going on? That's not right, because it doesn't follow the same order. It doesn't follow the order that you expect. Just as it, I, want. It, I, want, it doesn't follow the right order. It's wrong. You know it's wrong, and I know it's wrong. Because it's such a simplistic communication, you can probably just guess what I mean by it anyway. But if there were 20 components within the sentence as opposed to 3, then it would become very difficult if it was following the wrong order. So, just as want, it, I, want, it, I. All of these completely are wrong. They don't follow the right order. This one does. So that's what I mean by the relationship. So what I mean by the nature of different types of words which can be fed into the relationship is words serve different functions within a sentence. So within this sentence here, this word I serves a role, and the role is the initiation of the action. This word here, want, is an action and can be defined as such. And this word here, it, is a noun, is an object unto which the action is being performed. So this is called a subject, this is called a verb, and this is called an object. And they can be categorized as such on the basis of their role within the sentence. As I say, this one's role is an initiator of an action. This one's role is the action. This one's role is the recipient of the action. So, I can take words that are different to these words, and but which can be categorized in the same way as these words, which are of the same nature as these words, which fulfill the same function within the sentence as these words. So, for example, I can change. I can change the word, the action, from wanting to liking. Yeah? Instead of the idea of wanting, I want the idea of liking, of enjoying, of finding nice. So I trade out the word want and I bring in the word like. I can take the word I and I can trade that out for another word which is of the same nature. Say he, instead of it being the word which refers to oneself, the first person, it can be the word which refers to a male version of the third person, someone else. I can say he. And I can take the word it and I can change it for a different word, which in this instance can fulfill the same function, i.e. being the recipient of the word, of the action. So instead of it being it, I can change this word for him. And these words, when constructed in a different communication, will follow the same order. So the he, like the I, is the initiator of the verb. It's the subject. It's the entity that does the verb. He, so that comes first, as the I comes first. Then you've got the action, and instead of wanting, this time, it's going to be liking. So you've got the word for likes, like. He, and this, like the want, comes after the first one, after the subject. The verb follows the subject. And then, instead of it, we can use the word him. And this one, just like the it, follows the verb. So the words change completely. The meaning, the expression changes completely. But the relationship by which words of different natures are combined in order to create these expressions stays the same and can be learnt. So, again, the subject, the one doing the verb, takes the first position. Then the action, the verb itself, follows the subject. Then the object, the recipient, the entity unto whom the verb is being carried out, follows the verb. I want it, he likes him. She, the subject, carries out the verb first. Hates, the verb, the action, second, follows. That, the object, the entity which is receiving the verb, upon whom the verb is directed. Same order, subject, verb, object. Different words, different communication, same relationship. They see you. They is the subject, is the entity which is initiating the verb, which is carrying out the verb. The verb is the action, in this instance, seeing. And you, the object, is the word which represents the second person. So all these examples, I want it, he likes him, she hates that, they see you. All these words are the same category. They serve the same function in the sentence, in the communication. All these words are the same category. They serve the same function. And all these words fall into the same category. They serve the same function. So, sorry, I dropped my notes yet again. They're all over the place. Yeah, so this relationship that I just detailed between subjects, verbs and objects, this is one of the most simplistic relationships that exists within the collection of relationships which constitutes a language. But if you can understand the logic of what I'm saying here, the idea that a language is simply a series of relationships, I think probably 20 or 30 overall, then the same idea is applied the whole way through, from the most simplistic expressions, I want it, to the most complicated ones, like Had I known about that, then I would have asked her if I could have it before going to the cinema. All the way from the most complicated to the most simplistic, it's the same idea of just learning relationships. As I say, I think about 20 or 30 overall, and I think with full-time study and a good understanding of the idea, a good conceptual understanding of what you're doing, then one can target these relationships within a language, English, French, Dutch, German, Spanish, and one can, one by one, learn them all to such an extent that one can begin to simply use the language within 3 to 5 months. Full-time study, good understanding of what you're doing, 3 to 5 months of study will get you to a certain level. At this level, then you will be able to simply just start using the language to socialise, to work, to travel, to consume culture, to read news. You just use the language. Once you're at that point, it won't be perfect. It will be drastically inferior to your ability to communicate in English. But once you're at that point where you have a rudimental ability to use the language, then it's no more work. Then you just try to use it. And this can be enjoyable. You know, you can listen to music, you can watch films, you can read books, you can have relationships, you can work, you can study, you can do whatever you want to do, and it's not work anymore. Although it is difficult work for about 3 to 5 months. That's the language, and that's my view on how to go about learning one.